Let me say right now, by writing this book, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just simply stating the facts as I saw it through my lifetime. If you can't handle that, even if you're mentioned in this book and you can't handle it, then you just need to go hide under a rock somewhere. Because I am going to tell my story no matter what. John D., Nashville, Tennessee, never had any money. He never had any cigarettes and he never had any food. He did have $32 million stashed away where he couldn't touch it and a BMW and a fine house. I think he got a check a couple times a year for probably more than I'll ever make in a lifetime. He was and is a very nice person and knew a lot of country music history. The publishing studio was right in the middle of Music Row and was an old building that his daddy left him after he sold Cedarwood Publishing to Mel Tillis. John had made a lot of business mistakes in his youth, so like me, he was pretty much of a legendary bandit in the industry. I didn't really know it at the time, but I soon learned. I moved in and immediately went to work singing songs for John. Sometimes he'd throw me $30 or $40 at the end of the week, which I was grateful for, so I could buy another box of brown rice and another package of skinless, boneless chicken breast, celery, and carrots, and fixed a big pot of this sort of soupy stew twice a week, and John and I ate it. He didn't cook, and that's all I knew how to cook, and other than that, it was Cheerios, Raisin Bran, and toast. Hot dogs were a regular meal also. Two old bachelors living in a castle with very little cash flow. I drove to every bar and campground in and around Nashville and found almost no paying stages in the area. It was amazing how the bar industry kept the musicians in total poverty and the record industry dangled steak, Silver Eagle buses, record deals, and fame in front of these poor bastards like dangling a piece of red meat in front of a hungry pit bull. Musicians were so hungry they would line up at happy hour buffet line with only enough borrowed money to buy one beer, and then they would pass the plate around. There were times when you knew everyone was stealing each other's songs and guitars and girlfriends and wives. It was totally disgraceful, and I swore it would never be like that. I had a roof over my head and a truck full of equipment. I wasn't on Poverty Row yet, only Music Row. Close, but I was working for room and board for a rich publisher on Music Row. I remember singing on the sidewalk in front of the Hall of Fame like a kid with a lemonade stand. I think I sold 4 tapes and a poetry book that day. Another time I got run out of a state park for singing around a campfire without a state-stamped peddler's license. The whole state of Tennessee is tuned into shutting off all ways of income so you will sell your soul to them for pennies. Here I was again. I thought I had bought my soul back at the crossroads. I had no idea they would want it over and over and over again for the rest of my life. My dream was supposed to go on happily ever after. I paid those dues. Yeah, right, boy. Your dues are never paid for. You will be picking shit for starving bar owners the rest of your life. Bar owners and managers are always broke. They all have new cars and homes and health insurance and families and a drink in their hand and a tear in their eye, and they expect you to soothe their problems with your talent for free. If you'll play for $50, you'll never get a raise. If you play for $150 a night, you'll never get a raise. I know, because I've sung for ski resorts all over this country for 22 years and never had a raise. And that's just $1 million resort that has told me I'm not worth any more than that. The budget can't be raised. The boss won't let me pay more than that for a single act. Be glad you have any place to sing at all. It's a crying shame, but that's the way it is. You either have to bow down and be thankful for it, or find a job doing something other than singing. That's the way it goes. Wherever you go and whatever you do, you will be licking someone else's boot for help. Last August, a hospital in Pottstown, Pennsylvania kicked me out of the emergency room with a heat stroke because I didn't have any insurance or money. They charged me over $3,000, which I pay for at $5 per month. They couldn't help me because I had an inner ear problem that brought on the heat stroke called Meniere's disease. They told me to go to an ear specialist. I will never sing in Pottstown, Pennsylvania again. Kiss this, Pottstown. Life is totally amazing until you just can't take it anymore. Then you're done, and no matter what you've done to make it easier, you still have to get sick, suffer pain, and die. Money and all. I prefer to go out singing, or in bed asleep, or under a shade tree with my RV, truck, and guitar. I stayed in Nashville for 1 year. People all over town kept saying to me, "You have such a beautiful voice. Why aren't you a star? Why aren't you on the Tonight Show? What are you doing playing in this dump?" I hosted open mic nights and sang in more empty bars than I care to remember. The well-known Bluebird Cafe kicked me out for performing poetry and a story and music and comedy. The owner told me to come back after I got a standing ovation, to never come back after I got a standing ovation for her and sold booze. No one knows the difference between ballroom entertainment and background music in that town. You're only allowed to get up and pitch your songs, not entertain and keep sales up. What a bunch of ego-strutting assholes. Another club refused to buy my hot dog for me, and I was singing for free. I told them I would not be back after drawing a group of well-known Oklahoma songwriters to the place. Imagine not even giving a hot dog to someone who packs your club for free. By the end of 1 year, I was down, depressed, lonely, and full of anger and fear. No one would listen to me at the major labels because I was affiliated with a bandit from the old days, and I didn't even know it. I would not and could not conform to their shit anyway. So it really didn't matter what anyone thought of my friend John. I didn't like these people any more than they liked John. In the spring of that year, I was doing stand-up comedy opening shows for Jackie Martling and Emo Phillips at Zany's comedy shops, and hosting open mics in 2 or 3 different places, and still feeding John and myself. And one day John called me at the house and said, "Mountain John, how would you like to do a tour in Poland and Hungary in August for Philip Morris?" I damn near shit. I said, "Slow down, boss. Start this story over and don't forget the details." He was very excited and said, "Stay where you are. I'll be there in a minute at the office." I said, "Stay where you are. I'll be there in a minute at the office, and you can tell me then." I drove over to Music Row, and when I got there, he already had a bottle of tequila out. He told me the whole story. Philip Morris was looking for a band to tour Eastern Europe as a representative from Nashville Country Music, paid for by Marlboro Cigarettes and Pan Am Airlines. They wanted the history of country music to be performed on stages in Poland and Hungary for a 3-week tour, and it had all fallen into John's lap.